Alrighty, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you are in the back and you'd like to move up front, you are welcome to. We have plenty of spaces up here. We'll probably have some folks still trickling in the door for a few minutes, and that's okay. Hope everyone got a chance to grab a bottle of water, a little snack if you need one. And to kick things off, I'd like to start with a flag salute. So please remove your covers at this time. God willing, you're able. Please stand, face to my right, your left. Place your right hand over your heart. Current former military invited to provide the military salute. And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and joining me here at McCardle Elementary, proud home of the Mustangs. I am Nick Richardson. If you haven't had the opportunity to meet me, and I haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet, as of January, I am now the Northeast Fresno resident who has the distinct privilege and responsibility of serving you and being your voice downtown at City Hall. So one of my biggest goals is transparency. I expect transparency in my government, so now that I'm in a position of responsibility, I want to be that same transparency that I would expect. So I want to be that for you. That's a two-way street. One is coming and getting information from you. What do you need? How can we serve you best? What is your government not doing that we should be doing, or vice versa? And the second part of that transparency is bringing information to you, getting resources to the people who need them, right? Telling you about projects that are going on, telling you about application processes, sometimes physically bringing you the things that you need to do what you want to do. That is our job. That is what responsible, effective government does. This is a huge step in transparency. So this is the first of our town halls, and there will be one of these quarterly for the next 4 years. You can expect that. Likely at schools in the area. Schools are great cultural centers. You can look around us, you can see all the hard work these kids have been putting in lately. It's a beautiful place for us to come meet, even though you may not be directly from the McCardle neighborhood. And that's okay. So, we've been in office since January. What the heck have we been doing? I'm glad you asked. So since January, we've been putting effort into two different things. One is the proactive side. This is the fun stuff. These are the good ideas. These are the things that we want to get done. We want to build things here. We want to fix stuff there. And the second side is the reactive side. This we cannot predict. This is when we get a call at 1 in the morning that somebody's trash can was obliterated and now all their trash is leaking out. Or we get a call that Champlain and Perrin is now flooded and cars can't drive through safely. Or we get a call that, there's a new homeless demographic that has found themselves in a place where they weren't previously, right? These are the reactive things. This is when government goes from just a good idea factory to boots on the ground, it's kind of my thing, to boots on the ground and fixing problems when they pop up. And we pride ourselves on being good at this, and I want to introduce you to some of the people who are helping us do this. Now, before I get into all the introductions, we have some absolute superstars around us, and I want to point them out and give them some time because they're subject matter experts in their own individual area. Let's talk about what we've been doing. So yes, we have the fun things. We gathered hundreds of Valentine's Day cards and delivered them to veterans over at the VA hospital and the veterans home. That was a lot of fun. This past weekend, we met over here. We had 82 volunteers come out and pick up about half a ton of trash, 1 tire, and I think 2 shopping carts from this neighborhood. Just stuff that needed to be done. No one was told they had to come. Nobody got paid for it. Just some neighbors coming out and taking care of their neighborhoods. We've been prioritizing fixing potholes. We've got speed radars going in the vicinity of different schools. Mountain View Elementary, after meeting with their principal, iterated to me that the kids were unsafe when they were crossing alluvial. They wanted to slow the traffic down. Safety is number one. If you don't have safety, you don't have anything. So my office was quick to react. We got that speed radar system in there, and soon they will have a lit, flashing crosswalk guiding them across alluvial. We've taken some of the maybe unnecessary or maybe nice to have public works projects and replaced them and prioritized things that we need now. We need to be done quickly. We need dedicated left-hand turn signals at some of our intersections that are unsafe. I don't know about you, but getting to some of these intersections that don't have that protected left turn can sometimes, for me, be a dangerous situation depending on who the other driver is, and you never know. We've gone out during the campaign. It was a really big priority for me to go talk to each one of you, to be at every single one of your houses. Now, I don't know where y'all live individually, but I can promise you I've been to your house, whether or not I got a chance to meet you in person. So I told my staff, once we got into office, all right, I've been to the houses, you're going to the businesses. So my staff has spent the last, probably 5 weeks, going around and visiting every storefront, every mom and pop shop that's in our district. And if you're not familiar, District 6, our district, our home, is everything north of Bullard between Blackstone and Willow, all the way up to the border of Friant. Meanwhile, I've been going around and scheduling meetings and sitting down and finding out the concerns of every single school principal in District 6, something that council members don't generally do, right? They usually leave that to the school board. Well, I don't believe in that, because if you have kids or you have grandkids, as soon as that last bell rings for the day, or as soon as they step across that sidewalk, they are all of our responsibility. So I want to know from these principals what that school individually is dealing with. And I had the privilege of coming here to McCardle not too long ago and speaking with their principal about their concerns. So these are the things we're actively doing to make sure that we're getting ahead of problems, we're prioritizing the stuff that needs to be done, not just the nice to have things. Do we have some bigger ambitions in play? Yes, absolutely. We're working on a plan to get reduced tuition for the kids of first responders to go to the schools and the daycares they need to attend, or to continue their education afterward. Yes, that's gonna be fantastic. If you're really into labor law, we got some plans coming up to revise the way that the contracts are done with the city to get the work done, right? Bring more jobs here locally, get people paid, keep that money in Fresno, get folks trained, employed, and gainfully working here in our home, not from other places. So if you want to talk about any specific thing that we have going on, I'm happy to talk to you about that afterward, but let's get into some introductions and show you some of the folks who are doing a lot of the shaking and moving and putting the boots on the ground when it comes to progress for District 6. So I'd like to start off with my staff. Over here to my left, your right, we have my Chief of Staff, Nicole. Definitely deserves a round of applause. We have another one of our district assistants over here, Annabelle. We have Matt. Matt's been running around. He does a lot of our social media, our constituent engagement, and our event planning, which we'll see coming up soon. Outside of our office, we have some important folks as well. We've got our police captain for the Northeast Policing District, Captain Gross. We've got Steve Montez here with the Heart Team. It is a lot of our homeless outreach. He's the one we call when we see an encampment somewhere it's not supposed to be. We've got Scott Mosier up here in the front from Public Works. He's the one who manages all the designing and the construction and the completion of a lot of our infrastructure projects, be it chicanes or potholes or curbs, sidewalks, you name it. And I think in the back, we've got Mary Haskin from the Neighborhood Watch. Nothing makes me happier than watching folks take responsibility and take pride in the safety and security of their own neighborhoods. And much of the reason that I am here today, my beautiful fiance, Kelsey, and my dad and grandpa are here too, but I won't make them stand up. Okay, so each one of these folks, with the exception of probably my dad and grandpa, are subject matter experts in one function that the city has that provides you with something. So if you've got a question, if you've got a specific need, I am happy to take your questions. If you write me a letter, I'm happy to write you one back. If any of you have filed a complaint or issued anything on Fresno, you've probably found that I'm on the phone pretty soon thereafter calling you on the cell phone number that you leave. I like to be very involved, and I want to know everything that everybody's saying. These folks are the ones who go out there and get it done. So whatever questions you have or concerns, we can confront those with them a little later on. But for the folks who are outside of our staff, so Captain Gross, Steve, Scott, and Mary, I'd like you guys just to take a second and talk about what's going on up here in District 6 and what things folks can expect from you or ask of you, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll go first. As you can tell by my costume, my name is Don Gross. I'm a captain here at the Northeast District. I'm in my 34th year, so unlike our council member, I've been here quite some time. I've been invested in this city for a long time. Most of my career in patrol has been in the Northeast District. I've been your district commander for the last about year and a half now, almost 2 years, and it's a great place to be. Some of the good news, our crime statistics today versus a year ago today are a lot better. Our violent crime is trending downward. Our property crime is down in a lot of ways. Does that mean we're perfect? Absolutely not. Does that mean we've got a long way to go? Absolutely. But with the help of folks like Mary Haskin, with our Neighborhood Watch, and with folks like yourselves, when you see those problems, please bring them to our attention. Not everything we can solve immediately, but knowing where they are and what they are, we can work towards those solutions. One of the big successes that we've had recently, we had a series of commercial burglaries that were happening at one of our cigarette stores on the eastern part of my district. And we actually tracked the people that were doing those things all the way up to Richmond, California. Went up there, served multiple search warrants, and recovered a lot of property from one of our businesses here. So we could get that back to them. So it's things like that. It's the little things that people catch on their Ring camera. It's that one license plate number that you get. It's the one suspicious vehicle in your neighborhood that doesn't fit at 2 in the morning. I realize that we don't respond as fast as you'd like us. We don't respond as fast as we'd like to. But every time that you call in, every time that you give us an opportunity to do that, it's one opportunity that we get that we may not have. And it's those small things that do make a truly big difference. So without taking too much to talk about myself, a little bit about this district, if you're not familiar. While Councilman Richardson's district goes from Bullard all the way to the city limits, Northeast Policing District goes from Clinton all the way to the city limits north, and from Blackstone to Willow. At any given time, I have, like tonight on swing shift, I've got 12 officers to cover that district and that size. When I left for this meeting, I had about 14 calls for service holding. That doesn't mean that everything life-threatening was holding. As a matter of fact, there were no 0 priority calls holding, no 1 priority calls, but there were many other 2 and 3 and other priority calls holding. Average response times in your district in Northeast is about 8 minutes to a life-threatening call. And you think to yourself, 8 minutes is a long time. It absolutely is. From the time someone says 911 state your emergency to a time officer arriving on scene is about 8 minutes. And a lot can happen in 8 minutes. So we are doing our best to get to those first, then the ones that could be life-threatening second, and then to everyone. So for us this year, because our numbers are down, we're hoping to improve this customer service that you get. In other words, getting to your house to take that report in person, not having to do that online, not having to do that over the phone. So that's one of the things we're working towards. I'm sure your councilman will talk about some of the other budget constraints and things that are happening in the city. But if there's any urgent questions, Nick, do you want me to do that now or do you want to do that later?
We can do that later with questions.
Okay, sure. Well, then I'll turn over the mic to whoever you'd like to bring up next.
Alrighty. And real quick, yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Just real quick, before I bring Mary up, do me a favor, raise your hand if you found out about this meeting tonight through social media. Should be some of us, all right. Raise your hand if you found out about it through a text message. Good, all right, okay. And raise your hand if you found out about it because I was at your house the other day eating dinner and told you it was happening. Just one, all right, fair enough. From Nicole. Nicole is a great source of information as well. All right, well, thank you. Up next, we have Mary Haskin, who is a Valkyrie for Fresno with our Neighborhood Watch program to present some information to you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm a native Fresno, born and raised in Fresno, and went back to my childhood neighborhood in 2009 and started seeing some changes. And in 2018, I said, do we have a Neighborhood Watch program? And that's the beginning of my journey. Neighborhood Watch has been around for a really long time, and it kind of went to the wayside. Lots of things divide us, politics, pandemics, pick a subject. We don't agree on everything, except for one thing. We all agree that we want to be and feel safe where we live. Where you go to sleep, where you put your head at night, you want to feel safe. It's awful when you can't even feel safe in your own home. also we have to be mindful of all the things that divide us. You know, some people have different opinions about politics, racism, whatever, but you can't let that stop you from meeting your neighbor across the street. Let's say that neighbor votes completely opposite of you, but if their house was on fire, I don't think that you would stand there and be like, well, they don't vote the way I do. I think that you would go and help them out of the human nature and the kindness of your heart for another human being, and you would want them to help you too, right? But why do we have to wait for the fire? There's little things that happen that we can work together as neighbors. I was just telling the community service officer back there, Hosanna, stand up and raise your hand. She's the community service officer for Northeast. She works with Captain Gross. She works with you on quality of life problems in your district. We had a thing going on, and I'm texting people at work, and we're fighting crime, and I'm fighting crime at my dental job. I have a dental job on Monday and Tuesday. That's my given career. But because of my success in my neighborhood, I've been able and blessed, and I consider it a privilege to help you all figure out how you can take care of your neighborhood, because I did it with mine, and I've helped others to do it with theirs. And so we've had a huge success. So we now have resources that if you were, some of you here knew Roz and had a group. We didn't inherit any of those records, so we're trying to re-register old groups and get you started with a new group. It might sound like a lot of work. It really isn't. You're just meeting neighbors that you may not know. People move, pass away, whatever. We're just trying to get you to meet more neighbors, and we talk about some basic strategies. We have a block captain's guide that we didn't have before, and when you walked in, for most of you, I gave you this handout, which is a lot of pages, some of the pages that are in here, but it talks about what we're doing. We're trying to be inclusive and caring and care about everybody. Remember, we all agree that we all want to feel safe, and that's what we're here to do, to help you, teach you how to collaborate with PD, with the homeless response team, Steve Montez. We've advocated for streets. Scott Mosier can tell you how happy we are gliding on our streets now. A lot of us had car repairs, so we advocated for streets. We develop a relationship with every city council because sometimes they need to help you with an issue. So I am proud of him for caring about you all, because politicians are just people too to help you. So there's a lot of them now that are not acting like they're untouchable. They're here, they're of people. They want to hear what you have to say. So thank you for being here. I'll be in the back for questions and answers. Would love to help you. And our website is makefresnosafer.org.
All right, let's give Mary a hand. So a little bit of background on myself, very briefly. I was born and raised here. I went to Buchanan High School. My fiance and I live right down Herndon. At 18, I left, went to the East Coast to college, got a couple degrees from there, commissioned in the Marine Corps, flew combat helicopters for the Marines for about 10 years, and then switched to the infantry, realized I liked that a little more, moved to the reserves in 2022, which allowed me to come home and continue doing my service on 1 week in a month. And that gave me a lot of other time to find out a way to serve here. So with your blessing, I've been given this opportunity. I've accepted this mission, and this is my new focus and my new path. So that being said, we've always lived around here. My grandpa lives a few blocks that way. Spent a lot of good time in these neighborhoods, and I understand. You know, you tell me where you live. Not only have I walked that myself, but I probably have a friend who lives there, or it's right by my elementary school, or this or that. Actually, we had a meeting about a week ago, our first meeting about an infrastructure project. We got to hold it in the cafeteria of Copper Hills Elementary, where I went and where I met Kelsey. So it was a little cathartic being back in the original wrestling room, where I was originally bad at wrestling. So next, we will bring up Steve Montez with the Heart Team to give a little brief presentation about our homeless assistance response team. Steve.
Thank you, Councilmember. Good evening, everybody. It'll be very brief because I usually don't get a lot of questions on homelessness when I come to events like these. But so again, my name is Steve Montez. I am the manager for the Homeless Assistance Response Team. My job is to address all encampments throughout the whole city of Fresno. I have about 10 inspectors. We work with about 6 or 7 police officers, about 8 sanitation workers, and about 24 outreach workers. We do lead with services. We try to get people out of homelessness rather than just say, hey, you got to move it along. We do have tools, enforcement tools, that help us address those or encourage people to take those services. But at the end of the day, we cannot force people to take the services. It has to be their decision. But you guys help us encourage those people to take those services. You guys are our eyes and ears out there on the street. You guys let us know, hey, there's a person on the corner of this street and that street, and can you guys come out and try to get them into services? One thing that I stress all the time, and I hope if you don't take anything else from anything I say today, is 311. One call does it all. That helps us get these service requests, the information that you provide. I recommend being as accurate as possible. Sometimes we do get service requests where there's 100 people at this location. Well, that's a lot of people, right? And I think sometimes people think that, hey, if we increase the number or if we exaggerate some of the conditions, I'm not saying anybody's lying or anything, they get a quicker response. In reality, what happens is it'll get allocated to a specific team member. They'll go out there and realize, hey, the conditions are not what was reported, and it has to get reallocated to another team member. Private property versus public property. All these things, we have different rules that we as a city have to abide by. So if you take nothing else from anything I say today, it's 311, one call does it all, be as accurate and honest as possible, and then we work to address all encampments as quickly as possible. May not feel that way, but I promise you that we have a bunch of dedicated, caring people that want to get homelessness resolved. Not just moved along, not just pushed down the street, but actually resolved. I've been with the city of Fresno. Oh, so this program, so we've had the HEART program for about 3 years. It was preceded by the Homeless Task Force. And so there was a response, but now we have more of a holistic approach where I also get to direct the outreach services. So when I get a service request, it isn't just police officers going and saying, hey, you got to move, right? We have outreach workers that say, hey, I'm going to do some intake. I'm going to try to get you connected to the services that you need. I'm going to try to get you into shelter, and then we see what other things that you need to do. So it's a more of a holistic approach. Yes, we do rely heavily on the police officers. They're there for our safety as well. But a lot of times the officers are the ones that are getting people connected to services. Calling family members, calling our shelters, saying, hey, what's available? How can we get this person into shelter, rather than having a traditional police encounter where somebody's getting arrested.
The reason I ask that is because this is the first time I've heard about it, that you even existed. And I've come to meetings like this probably 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. So I'm not saying that I'm informed, all right? I'm just saying that I do come to these meetings, and if I don't know about it, then there must be a lot of other people that don't know. Because when we talk about the homeless, within our neighborhood, we've always gone to the police department. I had no idea that there was another source out there, not only to tie them up, but tying the source that needs to be the resource.
Yeah, well, hats off to the council member. That's why he's having these meetings, so we can get all the resources out.
You know what I'm saying? Is you need to advertise more.
Oh.
Not him.
Oh, okay.
Your team. He can do so much, but if nobody knows you exist, what good are you?
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm out here trying to get the word out that, hey, we do exist. I've existed for a while, and we're doing everything we can to try to resolve the issue of homelessness.
That weekend thing, that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe most of the people
do some more promotion.
Know about
okay.
it. I didn't know this existed.
And you know what? We will do our part as well to make sure that we are advertising. And again, part of our responsibility is presenting to you what resources and assets you have. So expect that we'll be taking responsibility on that as well. So let's give a hand to Steve. Great points. Those are very good points. Thank you for bringing that up. So before we had our neighborhood cleanup this past weekend, our public works team came out and they did what they call a neighborhood blitz. Neighborhood blitz is going through and essentially giving a makeover to the neighborhood. This included tree trimmings. It included fixing whether it was a pothole or a broken piece of sidewalk or a broken gutter, putting a repair on those, repainting things that need to be repainted. They replaced 2 street signs that were so faded you almost couldn't even read the street sign anymore. So just that uplift, that way we could come into this and talk about and show you directly some of the things that they can do. So representing our Public Works Department this evening, we're gonna have Scott Mosier come on up.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Great to see everyone here tonight, especially some familiar faces from previous meetings. Appreciate you taking the time. Public Works, of course, is very diverse as a department, just so you know who we are and the services we can provide for you. That ranges everything from street maintenance, potholes, patching, to getting major projects scheduled for repaving. Landscape maintenance, we handle the median islands, trails, street trees in your neighborhood, along with all of the special community facilities districts. Some may be in newer subdivisions that have those maintenance districts that take care of the buffers around the neighborhood. Also, of course, traffic, any issues with ranging from stop signs to concerns about speeding. There's some information on the tables about the neighborhood traffic calming program for residential speed humps. So we handle that. And then also major capital projects for traffic, as Councilmember mentioned, about things like older traffic signals. Recently completed Cedar and Teague to add protected left turns, green arrows at intersections. So I want to highlight what are some things going on in the district. One thing citywide, we talked a little bit about potholes earlier. So our mayor and city council really strongly emphasized wanting to increase the pothole program. And it's not just increasing kind of the putting cold mix or asphalt in the hole and that being a patch. What we invested in also is we brought back what's called a hot patch crew, breakout crew, and that takes care of larger areas. Like one actually, I noted just in walking into the meeting this evening, and right out here on Sierra in front of McCardle, in between the speed humps, and I took some photos, texted it over to the team, and my streets division manager responded within a couple minutes and said, "Scott, thanks for sending this over. This is perfect for the breakout crew. We're going to get it scheduled." So we've got that on the list, and we'll be getting Sierra taken care of soon. We have quite a bit of paving coming up in 2025. I wanted to highlight a big job for this summer will be Blackstone Avenue between Knees down to Minaret, so kind of the entire River Park area. This shows the challenges of funding. The city of Fresno actually now has a little bit over $1 billion of deferred maintenance in our streets, and that's just the pavement. So how does that compare? We all pay SB1 gas tax, vehicle license fees got added on by the governor, the legislature. That generates about $13 million a year. So our deferred maintenance is actually close to 100 times what we receive in SB1. Measure C generates about $7 million for paving, including pothole repairs and such. So that's a big problem that we're wrestling with as a community. The challenge that the streets are degrading, and unfortunately, streets wear out. They only have a life of, depending on conditions, of about 20 to 30, 35 years. And then they need lots of repair. So the cost of that work, it's actually degrading faster than we're investing. So something we're working through. Public Works, in addition to Blackstone, we also have First Street, Herndon to Sierra. That will be happening between late spring and early summer. Contractors already hired, and that work is getting scheduled and laid out. Also, our crews will be repaving Audubon between Friant and Cole. That's been on the list. And right close here by McCardle We have a slurry seal neighborhood project between Fresno over to Angus, and from Sierra all the way up to McGill. So that's coming soon, along with a neighborhood over near Somerville, Maple and Perrin for slurry. Good progress since last time some of you were out talking with us. We've had several traffic signals turned on up in the Copper River area and just south of Copper, around Beeheimer International area. So those were all developer funded. Those were their requirements. They've gotten those done. Last couple things I wanted to mention, Public Works also includes trails and tree planting. Through Measure P, there's dedicated funding for the San Joaquin River Parkway, and just the last couple weeks we were able to plant 82 new trees down in the McMichael Loop Trail area north of Woodward Park. So a lot of investments happening in that area and a lot more to come. Wanted to highlight one concern I've heard previously is about Cedar Avenue, and very pleased to report we've secured federal funding, and it's not frozen, secured federal funding for about a mile of repaving of Cedar. And then we've also secured Measure C funding. That's a local transportation sales tax for another half mile. So we have Cedar lined up in 2026 for repaving from Herndon all the way up to Nees, and then Teague to Shepherd, and we're not done yet. We're still working on securing funding for the rest. So I wanted to echo Steve's comments also lastly about 311 and Fresno. That is the fastest way to get something to our crews, whether you're talking about our graffiti team, 7-day-a-week operation for graffiti abatement, or potholes, trees down, limbs down, street lights out. By all means, we encourage you to utilize that. It gets it to our crews and to our team. So thank you for being here.
All right, give him a hand. Oh, hi there. Oh, you have a question specifically for Scott? Okay, so those of you who have come up to speak, if you don't mind just staying accessible, we got another microphone. We'll be passing it around. And Scott, you will be first. Now, on the topic of trees specifically, we had a tree recently. Anybody over here live by Kasner, in the vicinity of Kasner? Give or take a couple city blocks? Okay. Over by Kasner, there was a water leak that was reported to. The responding plumbing team had their van out there. While they were parked, go figure, a tree fell over on their van. Now, this tree has about 11 brothers and sisters who live alongside it about 15 feet spaced apart. Now, I'm not an arborist, but when I walked up and looked at this tree, because obviously I wanted to go inspect what happened, I walked up and I saw this tree was rotted from the inside, which tells me that if this tree is rotted, all the other trees alongside it probably in similar shape. Now that doesn't cut it, all right? That's not good enough, and we need to be inspecting all those trees. So we're already in talks. We actually had the talk with Public Works last week, talking to their arborist, making sure that none of these trees are in precarious situations and they're gonna fall on, you know, me or you or some kid playing soccer. So we're actively responding to these things and looking out. But specifically, we had one question for Scott. I'm taking that to the lovely lady in the sweatshirt over there. We'll start our questions. So if you have a question for myself, Scott, or anyone who's introduced themselves today, have at it.
I have a question about your outline. I am in District 6, but I am not affected by any of this. So is this it?
These are the projects for the time being. Yes, as far as major projects.
So if you don't live in the north of Herndon, you're just kind of out of luck. I live south of Herndon between Maple and Chestnut.
So in between Maple and Chestnut, so we were pleased. Yes, and we were pleased to, a couple years ago, you may recall, we are able to fund the repaving of the neighborhood east of Maple. Kind of
yes, I have a question
Yes.
about that too, because that is my neighborhood. And yes, we did get repaved, but we were given to understand that because PG&E cut all the streets up, that they repaved it, not the city. And Chestnut was repaved by a grant because they put in a bicycle lane, not the city.
So let me address both of those. So the project to repave the neighborhood from east of Maple, from Herndon down to Sierra, so that was funded by the city of Fresno. Those were your general fund, sales tax, property tax dollars, along with some gas tax funding that did that work. That was not funded by PG&E. Chestnut was funded by a federal grant the city of Fresno applied for through transportation funding. They're basically, so about a third of the city's program actually comes from federal transportation funding. Cities and counties have to competitively apply for that. Basically gets allocated out by formula to the states. The states then have formula to go to each of the regions, like in our case, the Fresno County region. And then we have competitive applications to see, okay, which city of Fresno projects are getting funded versus city of Reedley, Fresno County, rural areas. So Chestnut was funded through that process.
Well, might I ask why PG&E did not have to cover any of that cost, since they're the ones that cut the road up?
And I'd be glad to talk with you afterwards on specific locations. So the policy is if there are PG&E or Comcast, Verizon, whoever's doing trench cuts in the street, they are required to restore that. However, sometimes what we try to do, the goal is a dig once approach. So what happens is the city will notify utility companies, here are the planned projects, for example, the ones we mentioned. And that's a chance for PG&E to say, oh, we need to replace our gas mains, or we have underground electrical work, and we will coordinate with them to get in early and do all their trench cuts and work, and then pave afterwards. The last thing we really want is to invest money in paving and then here at the street is cut after the fact. Occasionally that happens, occasionally it's unavoidable. We really, really like to try and avoid that. But glad to talk with you after as well on specifics.
Scott? Yes, ma'am.
South of Herndon on the Cedar, that's really all the way up to Bullard is really rough. And I didn't hear anything, just like what you had mentioned. I don't live on the north side of town. I live on the other side. And I didn't hear anything happening. Are you planning to fix that road? The Cedar is a mess on south. It's even worse than the part you're fixing.
Cedar Avenue, there are very significant needs in that area. It's on our needs list. As far as south of Herndon, I can share good news. I did mention First Street is being repaved from Herndon down to Sierra. And our council, the city council just approved going after grant funding to keep going on First from Sierra down to Bullard. So that's another one in rough shape. We do have Cedar south of Herndon on the needs list. We just have not gotten there as far as securing funding for that. But I agree wholeheartedly. That's just as much in need, if not, some would argue more, that area and just north. Very, very similar needs, right by the shopping centers and all the way down. So we hear the concern.
You hear it.
We hear it, and if dollars were available, that should have been done 10 years ago, most definitely.
10 years ago, right now.
But right now,
saying that what we have to do is talk to our councilman and say, this is what we need done, because that, I thought Cedar going south was really in worse shape than First. And how do we determine who gets what, who gets the priority over there? Like First or Cedar? What's the conditions for the priority?
all right, that's a great question. How do we determine the priority of different streets? So a couple different factors. One is there's a rating, a pretty standardized industry rating used across the country. It's from 0 to 100. It's called a Pavement Condition Index, PCI. is what the engineers and the maintenance staff will refer to. 100 brand new street, just paved, done, 0 complete total failure. So where's in Fresno on average right now is about a 57 on that, which means your average street in the city is in need of repaving. Kind of some, great shape, some worse. And interestingly enough, we hired a firm who does this type of work. Of course, we do a sanity check on that as the staff. We presented it back to the council in early 2022. It's online. We can help if there's interest in seeing that. So what we actually found is that the urban legend of South Fresno having worse pavement conditions than North Fresno, not true. On average, we have neighborhood by neighborhood information. North of Shaw was a 59 and south of Shaw was a 60. So almost the same. But it was not the story that some will tell. So how do we then determine? One is straight up condition, but also what we'll look at is kind of the cost benefit. Streets are very low cost to maintain when they're newer. That's why you see some neighborhoods like right around here in McCardle, it's actually still good enough we can do a slurry seal. That costs about 1/30 of the cost of a complete street that's totally failed. So that's why someone will say, well, why is the city investing any money in this fairly decent street? It's to keep it whole.
You got a question in the back over there?
Hi. I'm wondering about the repavement of sidewalks or driveways where you start to have like Lake Placid in front of your house. And I called a couple years ago, they fixed the neighbors, but when I pointed to mine, because I was the one who called, they said it didn't qualify, but Lake Placid appears when somebody waters their yard or it rains and it just kind of is down and then it goes up. So it just, my guests can't even get in their car because it's so big. So who do I call to get that fixed?
All right, that's another really good question. So the Fresno is great. Our department also, we're glad to take that direct call. Our direct line is 621-8650. So here's the answer on what the city will put on the repair list or not. Basically, quick overview, state law says property owners are required to maintain their full frontage. So if someone actually doesn't live in Fresno, say they live in a county island, or they live in the city of Clovis, the homeowner is 100% responsible in those areas. If someone lives in Clovis and the tree in front of their house raises up the gutter, it's the homeowner who's responsible to fix it. City of Clovis will not. That's state law. Fresno has in our municipal code, adopted decades and decades ago, says if it's a street tree in the park strip and it raises up the curb, the gutter, or the sidewalk, that's the city's responsibility to repair the broken concrete. So, and a park strip is the area between the curb and the sidewalk. So if you're in a neighborhood, right, where you might have grass, trees in that area, you might have shrubs, trees. If that is known as a city street tree. If that's causing the damage, then that's the city's responsibility then to repair. We do have citywide about $200 million of deferred maintenance on that. City invests. We actually have 6 concrete repair crews citywide, and so glad to look into that situation a little bit further.
Another point about 311, just a plug. When you report something through 311, that comes through my office as well. So not only will Public Works get that information, but we will see it too, and we'll have the ability to go back and follow up for you or with you as necessary. Yes, ma'am.
I live near Champlain and Perrin, I've lived there about 12 years, and honestly, it has flooded at least 5 times. This time, there was a car stuck in the middle of Champaign and Perrin. I mean, it was right in the middle. The water was up to the windows of that car. No, I'm not kidding. Anyway, is there anything being done? I understand that it's because the drainage system was not put in correctly. That's a really big area for that.
It is. So it will please you to know about 2.5 hours ago, we just had a meeting with County Supervisor Gary Bredefeld, Public Works, the Flood Control District, and some other interested parties in the area to confront that, right? Biggest issue, the businesses are safe. If you're familiar with Champlain and Perrin, it's kind of a bowl, right? Both Perrin and Champlain kind of dip down right there at the intersection, for those of you who have been there. The businesses there are built up on a bluff. Each business is kind of protected and has an incline. But barring any infrastructure damage, which we haven't seen, sometimes we will get these rains that come through and will flood this area. As you mentioned, it's happened every other year, 5 or 6 times. So one thing that I learned very quickly, these rains, these heavy rains, are common in the spring, they're common in the fall. They're not common in winter. Now here's what happens, again, educating myself so I can relay this. In the fall or in the spring, when it rains and it starts knocking the limbs off the trees, all of these trees have leaves on them, which means that every single small inlet or gutter in front of your house is having some leaves and twigs and branches and everything filter that water. The water moves a lot slower as it makes its way to the main, and eventually what we have over there in Champlain and Perrin is a drainage pipe that leads directly out to the river after some filtration and things. That pipe is 5 feet wide. It would take an entire class of 6th graders to clog this pipe. But when every single tributary drain is being clogged or slowed down by these leaves, the water takes longer and it functions as intended. Now, that didn't happen this time because this time it was winter, and if you look around, not many trees have leaves on them. So what did we end up with? We ended up with multiple feet of water at Champlain and Perrin. So my proposition, 1, can we make the pipe bigger? No, it's in a valley, and the way the water trickles down from all the tributaries, it's gonna stack up. You could bring 10 pumps out there on trucks and pump all the water away and drive it away. It would be a drop in the bucket. All right, for reference, there were about 10 acre-feet of water that fell over there. Acre-foot of water is roughly 325,000 gallons. Each of these trucks carries 5 to 10,000 gallons or so, right? So you could tell it would take all day, and all it would do is continuously refill. So, issue, cars and water. 2 ways to fix it. You take out the water or you take out the cars. Taking out the water, not an option. The infrastructure is performing as intended. So how do we stop the cars from getting down there? Well, a low-cost solution, I would think, to stop cars from going down there is a flashing light that we've seen. If you go to any other city that has flooding issues, go to the Bay Area, go down to San Diego, LA, go out to the desert especially, 29 Palms, San Bernardino County, they have flash flooding. They have big yields, big yellow diamonds with flashing lights that say, just in case you missed it, hey you, there's flooding over here. Now there's a ring of roads that go around Champlain and Perrin. At some points it's Saybrook, some points it's Foxbrook, and then it's Hickory Hill and Liberty Hill. Yeah, it's a perfect circle around this. So if you were to close that intersection off, you would still be able to circumnavigate the entire intersection safely on higher ground.
No, you can't.
Sorry?
You cannot. We end up in the middle of a moat.
So the moats, we'll get to this because I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of that has to do with the county island that's up there on the north behind Liberty Elementary School, but some of those spots are low points. Now, 4 feet of, or 2 feet of water, 3 feet of water, what have you, at Champlain and Perrin, the best thing that we can do, because from an engineering standpoint, I wanted to exhaust every single option the flood control district could think up or could feasibly explain to get that water out of there. The best option we have is get the cars out. So we're gonna put flashing lights and signs with detours that as soon as that water hits about 1 inch, those lights come on. We're gonna practice it just during regular heavy rains that don't result in these floods, so the folks who live in the area get used to that sign. Hey, when flashing, flooding likely, take this detour to get people out of the intersection in the first place. The idea of barricades was brought up. I don't like that. If you gotta get out of that intersection because you work at Save Mart, you don't wanna be going through barricades. They said, hey, why don't you put a bunch of cops at every single corner? Well, that's fantastic. But we just heard from Captain Gross, we've got 14 police officers to police everything north of Clinton between Blackstone and Willow at any one time. So you want to take a third of that force and put them at one intersection? That doesn't seem like efficient policing to me. And they're standing out in the rain, which nobody enjoys. So we are working through solutions. We just met. I am passionate about this. Supervisor Bredefeld is very passionate about this, and you're passionate about it as well. I love your Mardi Gras vêtements this evening. Very nice.
It took my son 4 hours to get from the Fresno airport to my house because of flooding all around. He ended up at a pizza place by Clovis North
Okay.
and just stayed there until the water went down.
What about French drains? Like putting them in the grass or something?
What about French drains? So, fantastic option. They clog very quickly, and kind of like the pump trucks, it's kind of a drop in the bucket. So what other drains would do, other drainage pipes or what have you, it would just allow another access point for that water to come down and then hit these pipes, which are probably full in the first place, if it's one of these once in a while storms. But I do love me a good French drain. Thank you. Next question.
This is for Public Works.
Oh, sure. Sir, I'm coming to you next.
At the last meeting, you said that ordering like posts and lights and wires and all that, you know, it takes time to order those things, and last time you said they were on back order and they're hard to get. Is that still the case? And is it possible to eliminate all traffic lights without turn signals, because our city is growing and not everybody knows that you can't turn when the light's green?
All right. So as far as traffic signal, the biggest burden actually to getting one done or getting one upgraded is really dollar-wise. Traffic signal upgrades right now, they cost around 1.3 million a piece. Depends case by case on the location, but that is a cost that we have really seen dramatically rise. I have worked with City of Fresno for 23 years, the last 11 as director, and I can tell you when I started with the city, a traffic signal cost about $150,000. So and now we're at 1.3 million for one. So the poles and the components, what's called the controller, it's a computer that sits inside the cabinet. All those components take typically 9 to 12 months to obtain. It's the city, we have another department called our Capital Projects Department, helps deliver projects. They are very wise and sharp, and what we do is we pre-order what we can. So we pre-order poles, hire the contractor, and the city will furnish them the poles so it's ready to go. As far as, also great question, you'd mentioned about traffic signals that do not have a green arrow. The technical term is called permissive phasing, because you can only go when you don't have oncoming traffic. A lot of cities have those across the country. They meet standards. They are safe. You have to exercise caution with oncoming traffic. We do currently in District 6, we have a project in design right now for actually the #1 rated intersection in the entire city, and that's Alluvial and Millbrook. So that may be one you're concerned about. If so, good news. Those plans are being put together. We're going to get to 100% plans that are ready to bid. The next step would be for that project to receive funding in the city's budget, that it would be ready to go into construction next year if those dollars become available. So that's good news. And if you have any others of concern or specifics, glad to talk with you about those too. And also, with any traffic concern, the Fresno app and 311 is great. We have traffic operations staff who will look. We do a citywide ranking list based upon traffic volumes, proximity to schools, accidents. So out of dollars available, we can put those to use in the most critical locations.
For some background, they know that I am passionate about that intersection, because when I went to every single house in that area, that is what they were saying. That is unsafe. Close to a church, close to a school, that's not gonna fly. So know that I am not letting up on Public Works to get that done. And like you mentioned, the price has gone up 10 times what it used to be. That is insane to me. My theory of a good effective government is low taxes, low expenditure, let people keep their money, do what you can do the most cost-efficient way possible. So when you tell me this price has gone up 10 times, that tells me we need to start tightening our belt. So my office, my staff, we've started cutting money. Even the money that I'm taking home, I'm cutting that. We're cutting stuff to make sure that we have money to do what's most important, which is keep people safe. So we're dedicated to that. Thank you for bringing it up. Sir, you promised you the next question.
Thank you. Thank you for having this format for us. And I've talked to Nicole a few times when she was with Mr. Bredefeld. You were smart to keep her on. She's very professional.
I agree.
Hey, well, we need your help in our neighborhood. I live in a similar neighborhood with this lady right here. We live in the Hallmark homes. They're known for being well-built homes. I'm south of, or no, east of Cedar, between Sierra and Herndon.
Elder care facilities?
We're not, yeah.
Brother, I hear you loud and clear.
I mean, we're not a affluent neighborhood. We're, a working class neighborhood. They're well-kept homes. And this company has close to 40 homes in there. There's 2 and 3 on each street. They're building them right next to each other.
Last count was about 38.
There's 9 under construction right now.
45. Holy cow.
It's ridiculous. There's no way any of us could bid against this company.
Nope.
That's 40 families that could be in our neighborhood.
Not when they're paying cash and above market value.
I know your hands are tied. I've contacted Shannon Grove's office, right? I know your hands are tied, but we need your help to keep it on the forefront.
You know what? Hands tied is never a good enough excuse for me. So.
It's ridiculous. Please come to our neighborhood and drive it. Let us show you where they're. It is ridiculous.
Oh, I know, because walking around, I can tell right away which ones they were. They've got an oxygen sign on there. They've got an ADA ramp. They've got AstroTurf out front.
They're not stopping. If there was 5 or 10, I'm sure all of us would be okay with it.
Who knows what we're talking about over here? Anybody? Most of us? Okay.
There's 40.
So let me give you some background on what's
in that square. And they bought Sierra Nut House. That's their office.
They're running their operation out of there. Totally familiar, and thank you for bringing that up. So if you're not tracking what is going on between roughly Cedar and Chestnut and Herndon and Sierra and to some extent down to Bullard, right? There's this company who got state funding to come to Fresno, buy up these homes. And it's a beautiful neighborhood. It's a classical neighborhood. It's a close-knit neighborhood.
They're gutting them. They're beautiful 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom. They gut them and turn them into 6-bedroom. They built one behind me, and it was RV parking, and they're using it for construction.
And it's not just the inside. So what they're doing is they're coming in. They find a house that maybe is for sale. Maybe they convince the owner to sell it. They come in with cash, with a state grant. They buy it for cash above market value, meaning that any of us, like my fiance and I, who were trying to buy our first home, we don't even have a chance. They're coming in there, they're buying these houses that have been there since, the 70s.
75.
They're gutting the inside, making 6 rooms in there because that's the maximum allowable. They're turning it into somewhat of an elder care facility. They level the front, they level the back, they fill the pool in with concrete. They transition this thing to something that was entirely unrecognizable, right? It destroys the resale value of the home. It brings down the value of the homes around it. You've got emergency vehicles at all hours of the night showing up. They've got transient employees, multiple employees who are coming and parking or getting dropped off or having their friends come by and bring them lunch, right? We've got issues with garbage out front. We've got issues, equipment and family and friends and delivery trucks, you name it. So what can we do?
They're using the RV. They built one right behind me, and it had RV park, and they're putting their great all in there every night. They're putting their tractor in there every night. I got a construction going on behind me. They got 9 of them. They're building all at once.
Needless to say, in a residential neighborhood, this is an absolute non-starter. Now, here's what he means by our hands are tied, right? At the city level, we have gotten such strict pushback from the city attorney, from the county, from the state, saying, listen, there is nothing we can do. This has already been decided by the state. Now, nothing is decided that can't be undecided, right? No problem exists that can't be fixed somehow. You just got to find the person to fix it. So who do we have who can fix this for us. My office has been, we've reached out to, we're drafting legislation right now. We're just the city, but we are drafting legislation with the city attorney's office. Senator Grove's office is ready there, waiting with an open hand for us to finish this up. It was a 2-week process. We started it a little while ago. It should be done shortly. We're going to Assemblyman Tangapa, Assemblywoman Macedo. We're going to Assemblyman Arambula if he's willing to help. Whoever it is, anyone at the state level in the assembly or Senate, no, that's not my decision to make, but I can bring your voices or help you do it there. I would encourage you to reach out to them at the state level, call their offices, call your assemblyman, call your state senator, and let them know, voice your concerns to them. Although I am happy to be a conduit, I can only be a conduit. Now my hands aren't tied, I can do something, but what I can do outside of being out there with you on the picket line holding the sign is be that conduit for you to get to the city or to the state level. I'm upset about it as well. I already mentioned, it's hurting first-time homeowners. It's hurting existing homeowners, right? It's hurting those communities. There's nothing, I've explored looking through zoning, if there's a different way that we can code that property to stop them from coming in, that was shut down. We talked about business licenses and fines and extra permits and conditional use permits. Everything at the city level is being shut down. Our only asset, the best asset we have right now is good, responsible state leadership. So find your state leaders, just like I have been. I've been emailing them. I got a group chat with 4 of them. I'm happy to talk to them, and we are doing this. We are bringing legislation to them. But this will not be done downtown in Fresno. This is a decision made in Sacramento, unfortunately.
You know, if this company ever pulls out, there's no way like one of us could go buy that home and put it back.
No, how are you going to fix what's been done? No way.
There's no way.
And I don't think they've planned for that. They have no plans for the future. Their plan is for profit, and that's it.
Hey, the weird thing is, I walk that neighborhood a lot. I don't think these things are full. I just think he's making money building them.
Well, let's call the crews that need to work.
I don't think it's weird. Something weird's going on, man, you know?
Well, I was wondering from the time they went in, are they only allowed to put elderly people in the...
Well, move on to a different neighborhood.
Up to 6 tenants in there.
Different district.
With care staff, IHSS. Yeah, that's the first row that I heard.
You know, in our neighborhood, we have had about 30 homes for many, many years, and they were not a problem. In fact,
I didn't even know that 2 of them were there and they were next door to each other. I thought it was just a family, generational. That's how quiet they were. This guy is a criminal. He came in here, he bought all these things for cash, he bought no permits. He was trying to do it under the table. Nicole, I'm Diane. She's heard from me many, many times, and from our neighborhood. He had no building permits for all of the extra space he's added, all the bathrooms he's added. I don't know what in the long term that's going to do to our infrastructure because it wasn't built for that. But yet, there's a statute that gives him free rein to do that, to override our CCNRs, to do everything. A statute that was written in the 70s. That's our problem.
You talked about drafting legislation and contacting our state, all of the state officers, go all the way up as far as we need to go. When we do that, would it help to wait until the legislation is done? And then even if not, even if we don't need to wait until then, will you somehow let us know what that legislation is? So when we call up, sometimes it's helpful to say, this is the one, you know.
If you've got an issue bugging you yesterday, I say report it yesterday. I'm not a fan of waiting, and your elected officials deserve to know as soon as it's affecting you that it is affecting you. The second part of your question, will we let you know? Absolutely. Okay. We are going to be following that legislation through like it's our own newborn kid.
Okay, and how will you notify us? And only because years ago where I worked, when there was something related to a particular thing at the VA, but anyways, they had like text chain or a call chain, and you could tell, and the dietitians would call and they go, I'm supporting AB, blah, 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 you know, kind of thing. You know, is this who I am? So they all were like, all responding and letting the legislature person up above, this is the one I want you to pass, you know. And so then they had marked down, you know, hundreds or thousands of people supporting it, as opposed to me calling and saying, well, I'd call anyways, but I know it helps to know, you know, tell them, I want you to vote yes on this because I'm for it.
Like I said, calling and emailing, call them and email them right away. But as that legislation moves, whether it's Assembly to Senate to the floor or vice versa, expect that we're going to keep you, I mean, we'll blast, same reason y'all are here today. Whether it's social media, whether it's going out and physically dropping flyers on your door like we like to do, sending out a text message, you know, I'll be on the radio if I need to. You are passionate about this, which means I have to be passionate about it as well.
Because I know it'll help.
On the board for this, your office has more horsepower than me calling you.
Yeah, but you know what, to be honest, and I know what you're saying. You saying it is one voice. All of us saying it is hundreds or thousands of voices. It's easy for them to ignore one voice, even though he's our city councilman, if we all speak up. And the other
And it's
thing
not
is,
one or the other. We are speaking up. Join us. Join me.
Yeah, because but it's easy for them to say, oh, it's only one voice talking about it.
Sure.
When they sign in, maybe they can make a little note about senior living homes, and then that way, when
That's a
I
great point.
have an update, I will email everyone the same update. So everyone is kept up informed as the process moves forward. So if you signed in on the back, you can kind of make a note about senior living homes. I will make sure that you get an email and you're notified as the process moves forward.
So if you didn't catch that in the back, if you signed in today and this is a subject that's passionate, that you're passionate about, give us a little SLH next to your name for the senior living homes. If it's something else, write that next to your name. Give us something specific, whatever you are passionate about. Let me know what things you care about and what things you really don't care about. And if there's something that is your personal bugaboo, we will make sure that whatever means we have to contact you, again, even if it's me knocking on your door at 7 o'clock at night, we will do it to make sure that this communication is two-way. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to thank Nicole because I talked to her last week and I'm concerned in that neighborhood. Back in the day, there was ordinances or regulations where daycares had to be so far apart, all right? And it seems like that could be the same case here, where we could have it so many miles apart. I'm not sure if an ordinance could do that, or that's totally out of the city's league.
That's the thing in the city. That's absolutely an option. We're drafting legislation right now to keep smoke shops a certain distance from each other, right? To keep liquor stores a distance from each other and to keep them distances from schools and whatnot. With this was one of the first things I went to. Okay, well, how about we limit it per jurisdiction, right? Per precinct, why don't we say there can be 1 or 2 or what have you?
Well,
what answer did I get from them? Same as before.
Well, the owner of the group assisted living group home behind me tried to build a supply building right on my gate, and I complained.
It sounds like a code violation to me.
So he comes over to my house and he waves this piece of paper and says it's legal for him to do that. And I said, well, that's fine. You can tell the city code, the code enforcement that when they come out, because I've already called them. So it did not get built.
What was code enforcement was able to stop that construction?
Yes. And he did offer to buy my house while he came over to my house.
I would imagine while he's there, he may as well put the plug in, right?
And my husband was like, great, right? No, dear. Anyway, thank you.
Know your audience, guy. Sir in the back.
Thank you. Hello, Nick. My name is Ken Gatewood, and I'm a retired Army aviator. And you have my respect for admitting that you went from Marine aviation to infantry, but it kind of baffles me what your decision-making was there. But my current gig in retirement is I'm on the Woodward Lake Lakefront board of the HOA, and my issue is the CMAC plant. Maybe you've heard about that.
I just toured it today.
Okay, terrific. So we're against it, we're opposed. The plant physically is not in the city of Fresno, but the impact is going to be tremendously damaging in your district.
To the bluff, to the river, you name it.
And I've already communicated with each of the county supervisors, including Supervisor Bredefeld, on that, on just picking out the environmental impact report, the noise impact, and I've already communicated with them on that. Question is, what can we ask you for help in opposing the CMAC expansion? And real quick, if people aren't familiar with it, it's a gravel plant that wants to go for the next 100 years and dig an open pit mine 600 feet deep right next to the San Joaquin River. And the gentleman mentioned San Joaquin River Parkway is going to be a disaster that way. So what help can we ask you for in opposing that?
So EIRs, this is one of the things I learned on the campaign trail. So an EIR is an environmental impact report. Before anything is built, be it a school or a freeway or high-speed rail, you name it, something has to be done called an environmental impact report. Luckily, they take it out of the hands of Marines like me, you know, or politicians, and they give it to people who are subject matter experts. If you are an expert on air pollution and air quality, then you're going to do the part that has to do with air quality. They have folks over there who are experts on sound pollution and noises and infrastructure and wildlife. And I spoke to a gal today who's a geologist, probably first geologist I've ever met in my life, but she was able to spin me up very quickly on the differences in types of granite and things of that nature. This environmental impact report is required before any construction takes place that may have some sort of impact of one nature or another. Now, concerns specifically with CMACs. Okay, yes, they're out there. They've been there for 102 years. They want to do the next 100 years as well. They want to expand their operations from a 300-foot mine to a 600-foot mine. They get gravel and granite, and they do different stuff with it. What does that mean for us? Well, let's think about it. One, that's more trucks. They want to expand. This is going to be more large vehicles transiting north and south on Friant, and then out Shepherd, out Perrin, down to Herndon, down to Bullard, you name it. Wherever they're going with this stuff, that's more added traffic that's going to go there. Now, they provide jobs. They provide, I don't know, 80 or so direct jobs, and they have a few secondary jobs as well, maintenance staff, things of that nature. What does it mean if we get rid of them? Well, potentially it'll have an impact on that labor. What does it mean if we're building houses and things like that, larger infrastructure projects, and we can't go there for cement? Well, maybe we have to go somewhere else. But then let's look at the other side of the plant, the river. The river is a vital resource. They're tucked right there next to the Conservancy and the Trust and the San Joaquin River. You want to dig deeper, that is cause for concern, right? That is a cause for concern as well. You've got birds that make that their natural habitat, and to their credit, they've taken extensive measures to make sure that all their pits, once they've mined it out, they turn it into a nice duck pond, and they plant trees and stuff like that. Kelsey and I are actually talking about having our wedding out there in that vicinity because they've done a good job at some of the reclamation out there. But if you want to dig a 600-foot hole and have large diesel vehicles transiting in and out of it all day, carrying, a million tons of rocks a year, that we need to pause. That we need to give it to the experts, the people who know about the ducks, the people who know about the water flow patterns, the people who know about the geology and the hydrography, things of that nature. So with that EIR, if you want to read it, it's long. There's an executive report that came out, and I would encourage you, there's a public comment period taking place right now that you can speak to the Planning Commission. My job is not to take a stance one way or the other on whether cement is bad, but I want to provide you with the resources, the folks I work for, to tell you, again, if you are passionate about this, as it's understandable at Woodward Lake, you can't leave Woodward Lake without looking at it, right there across Friant. Make that public comment heard. Go to a Planning Commission meeting if you like. They're boring as all get out, but if we like meetings at night, it's a great time, all right? You can really learn about it. If there's a project you're passionate about, go there. Email me, I will forward it. Call me, I will forward that. Call the people on the Planning Commission. You have access to all these folks. Some of them actually live at Woodward Lake also, who could be a very good resource. Ma'am.
Hi, thank you. Nice to meet you today too at
good to
City
meet
Hall. About this specific thing, I have a QR code. The comments have to be submitted by March 10th. This was a local action item that my group was supposed to work on regarding this specific item. Public comments have to be submitted by March 10th. I have a QR code. If anyone wants it, I can share it on how to submit your comment about this issue. This is the only open segment of time, and once it's closed, and they'll move on. but I do have information about it. It was something that we were working on today too. Was
I appreciate that. That's fantastic.
postcards
And if you'd like
anyway.
what was your name?
I'm Katie, and I'm with indivisible.org, and we do a lot of this stuff.
If you would like to submit
But-
written comment, then Katie,
Yeah,
that could be
my
a great
QR
asset.
code. I also have all the other information too, but sorry, I don't know when I take up more time, but I have the email address for David Randall. He's a senior planner with County Public Works and Tulare. And there's a QR code that might help also. But anyway, public comments have to go through him. I'll help with that tonight if anybody is interested.
And
I'll leave it at that.
if you are a written comment person, that's a great outlet for you. If you want to go in person and make a stink, well, I'm here to protect your First Amendment rights, and I don't have to agree with you to give you the opportunity to go out there and make whatever stink you'd like. So if anyone's familiar with Sierra Sky Park, I went to one of their planning commission meetings where they had a big drafted statement. It took them 15 minutes to read it. You only get 3, so they had 5 different residents get up there and pick up where the last one left off. They made their point, and the construction of that project stopped. So your voice matters. It can make a difference. Personally, I like to be there in person, but if you like to make the written comment or you don't want to drive, absolutely understandable. It's important. You should have access to that. Yes, ma'am.
In what you're drafting on the senior homes, are you asking that they become businesses? Because a 6-bedroom house, at each bedroom renting for $4,000 to $6,000, I'm sorry, that's a business.
Oh, they're raking in the money, no doubt about it.
Yes. And it's in a residential neighborhood. And I think that may be the quickest way to stop them. We can't change what's already happened, but to stop them is to turn it into a business where they have to pay like everybody else.
Make them register, absolutely. So what's happening right now with the legislation is the city attorney's office, again, give it to the experts, is my opinion, just like the EIR. The city attorney's office has their legislative team drafting up all of the options that we have, and that'll be for us to send to the Senate and Assembly saying, here are a menu of things that you can do that will make our lives better. Get past what you can. So there are options in there for classifying them as a business, reclassifying the zoning code, getting them fined in the first place, right? Making them apply for a separate permit.
We have CCNRs that should have blocked this, but they don't.
On the state level, rarely are those binding, unfortunately. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to start the list. They're going to go around with the pen. Just either find your name and write SLH right next to it, or if you didn't sign in and write SLH.
I have one more thing I want to say. I started working with this with Mr. Bredefeld. He turned it over to Nicole, and I would like you all to know she worked her fingers to the bone on this. She deserves a big round of applause because he gave it over to her. He didn't do anything. When I first met with Nick a couple of weeks ago, he was completely informed on this situation. Bye, Nicole.
I would have been a dummy to get rid of Nicole.
I agree that Nicole is very sharp tack.
All right, you're next.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the senior homes have to have licensed contractors?
Nicole, you want to take over here?
No, I mean, because they're...
Short answer, yes, but...
Yes? Okay. So if they're not using licensed contractors, who would I call to report that? Along with the fact that they block the street traffic all the time on the homes that they're working on? Because they have all these... Anyway, go ahead.
This person's actually very smart. He actually has his own construction company, and he is licensed. However, it was mentioned that they were getting caught without doing, actually having their proper permits. And that was one tool in our toolbox that we did have, because we were actually able to go after them and red tag about 8 of them in that neighborhood because they didn't have the right permits to actually make the changes that they were. So now, every single time we hear about an address being worked on, we immediately work with planning and development to make sure that they have the proper plans and permits in place. They're targeting this neighborhood because it's the same type of home, so it makes it very easy. It's the same floor plan. So it's very easy to recreate this over and over again and, you know, push it through the Planning and Development Department. So, but like Nick was saying, state law has, you know, held our hands on this. We have worked with all of our city attorneys, with Planning and Development to do anything we could. We asked for routine inspections by code enforcement. That was turned down. We were asking for preventing the number of these homes in a certain neighborhood. And actually, state law, and I do have it and I can email it, it binds our hands again where they can have as many as they want. But they continue to get grants from the state. It's over $5 million as of right now. And it's under Fresno Guest Homes or Zen Care Holdings. So they are a family, but they've owned a lot of these homes for a long time. Some of them are recent, but, you know. Yes, yes.
And the other question I have is, who oversees, what agency oversees the seniors in these homes? Because we never see them outside, very rarely. Very rarely. Most people do need sunlight, but are they so disabled they do not move out of a bed? All right?
That could potentially be another reason to call and report it and have someone go check up on them, whether it's IHSS or another, you know, in-home state facility or state entity.
Because I know that community care licensing always oversaw all the group homes for foster children. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind, not to cut you off, if you say it into the microphone, then they can get it on the recording as well, because folks at home might have the same question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm a part of the District 6 Project Review Committee. They've never come through us. I've been on the committee for probably, I would say 11, maybe 10 years, and we always get all the projects. So is the Planning Commission looking at selectively deciding what committee or what project goes through this citizen organization? I guess that's my question.
You're talking about the senior homes specifically? Why don't we loop in the planning department to explain why they're leaving you out of the process?
Well, I mean, on anything, come on, there's a project going on, any project.
Sure.
They've all gone through us, different times, different things. So I'm just saying this, I know they get mad at us, we get limited things.
Let me dig into that, and we'll loop you in. If you let us know this is something you want to know about, we will give you so much information.
Okay, so first
Sorry, this young lady in the back wants to ask her first question, if that's okay. All righty. We're coming for you. I see you. No problem. I'm Nick. I work here now.
Giant backyard.
Sorry, there you go.
So it's not bad now, but I'm used to the noise. But what are the long-term plans for Herndon? They keep building out in my area, but Herndon, they might add a lane or something, but what's the long-term planning for this? I'm thinking, I told my family, we may have an overpass over our house one day.
I'm sorry, with military grade tinnitus, freedom always rings for me. So if you...
Or, you know, they're going to take out part of our property.
Sorry, I need you to say that again in the microphone. I can't hear you.
Do you want me to repeat the whole thing?
No. You live on Herndon, and you've seen lanes?
I live off Herndon and Chestnut.
Okay.
So I've been there for 38 years. And of course, it's changed, but I have a third of an acre in my backyard. But I'm thinking, as it gets busier, is there a long-term plan for, as they keep building out around Willow, all these stores and all these apartments, do they have a plan for what are they going to do about the traffic on Herndon?
Great question. So you live...
I don't know, should I stay? I really don't want to go because I've been there 38 years. And I'm thinking that we may have an overpass in our backyard.
Is it the speed of the traffic specifically?
Oh, there's so much. Because look at what they built out there off Willow.
Captain Gross, would you mind speaking a little bit about the speeding? and the method to stop speeding specifically along Herndon, if you don't mind.
Are you talking about, ma'am, are you talking about the speed the traffic's going, or there's just too much traffic?
So much traffic.
Yeah. The city, I know, does have long-term plans, and I think Scott could probably speak to that more directly. As far as the speed of traffic itself, I know that's regulated. We have traffic officers that do that, but the thing is we don't regulate how much of it there is. We just regulate how fast it goes. And I think your concern is how much of it there is. Yes, ma'am.
There you go, Scott.
All right. So as far as traffic, Herndon Avenue itself, in that area between kind of Cedar out to Willow Avenue, it is built out to what it's planned to be with 3 lanes each way, typically 2 left turns at the intersection. But there are some other streets that have not been built out. For example, Willow Avenue, that the northwest corner of Herndon and Willow is still undeveloped. So when that finally comes in, they'll be obligated to build Willow out for a 3rd lane. They'll add a right turn pocket. Similarly, Chestnut Avenue north of Herndon, that is not built out. It's planned as a 4-lane arterial. So there are some improvements to handle more traffic, but Herndon itself is not planned for any additional lanes in the area. And actually, a council member was talking earlier about the CMAC project, right? And you know, along the river and such, but every single development also has to have its own environmental document. They have to study the traffic, and so all that gets disclosed before it happens.
One interesting thing I learned about Herndon, while we get a microphone over to you, Herndon is what's known as an expressway. So you can take Herndon from one end of Fresno all the way through Fresno, all the way over to Clovis. Now, with this come specific restrictions. Buildings have to be a certain distance off the road. You can't have a driveway that comes directly off of Herndon to get anywhere. Some of these things were done to mitigate some of that traffic. It would be even worse, you could imagine, if you had the line for Starbucks turning directly off of Herndon into the driveway where it's all backed up, or in and out over on Clovis and Herndon. You can imagine. So when they planned that, it was planned for a lot of traffic, but it was planned for consistent traffic, I suppose. Yes, ma'am.
Mine is just in response to the lady who spoke about, is there anybody who monitors the adult homes? And that is community care licensing, and there's also a state ombudsman person that you can call.
Yes, you get enough people in a room, someone's gonna be the have the answer to your question.
But they need specific information. So you call in a report, you've got to say this person, 3 minutes.
That should be part of the disclosure process for these businesses when they go in, which is step 1, something I'm fighting for. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Oh, sorry. Yep. Go ahead. You were waiting patiently. Sure. She was waiting. That's fine.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
I'm a very patient woman. This is for Captain Cross? Gross. 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 Oh,
yeah,
gross.
my last
gross,
name
gross.
is Gross. Is
so
it
like,
that?
I loved what you were sharing with me over here, and I would love for you to share that as well. But my question was in regards to the Neighborhood Watch program and the community service officers, because I do have a block captain folder that I got from the Residential Police Academy that was put on by the city of Fresno, and it opened up a door to actually be a volunteer with the police department. So for all of you out there that are retired, last year. Yes, and so for all of you that are retired in the room, if you want to do something for your community, if you still have the fire inside of you to serve, getting plugged in with the Residential Police Academy, getting plugged in with the police department, like it is such an honor and a privilege to serve with them. 311, download the Fresgo app. It's the best thing you could do for the city. I believe we could transform our entire city with the Fresgo app. But in regards to the Fresno Police Department, I wanted to know, what does the community service officer do, and do we only have one of them? And I would love their information so I could get you guys plugged in for our first Neighborhood Watch program meeting, because my situation is a little bit different because I'm not a homeowner. I actually am a property manager, so I have 93 units on the corner of Millbrook and Teague. I have about 140 residents that I take care of by myself. So our needs are a little bit different than homeowners, but I want to also get to know those homeowners in our area and also bring together the apartment people and see how we can work together so we can make that little corner of our little world a better place.
So that's a multi-part question. Let me try and, it's fine, it's fine. No, we do not have one community service officer. Our district has 2, 3, 4. Each district should have 5. We're trying to currently hire for that. Community service officers handle calls for service that are just short of something that would be a safety issue for a police officer. So they will handle the vehicle burglaries, the residential burglaries, a missing child, a senior person that's wandered away. Any of those calls where you don't need a police officer with a gun to handle, they're going to handle those calls for us. So they augment our forces so that officers can go to those life-threatening situations. We do have, each district has one community service officer that's focused on crime prevention. That's what Hosanna does. And we are happy, if you are going to have your kickoff meeting for Neighborhood Watch, we're happy to have Hosanna come, as well as an officer, whether it be a patrol officer, a patrol sergeant. It just depends on when you have your meeting and what day it is and what resources I have at the moment. We're happy to have one of those individuals come as well. What I don't need from Neighborhood Watch is a series of meetings. I don't need you to go once a month or once a week or once a quarter. What I do need from Neighborhood Watch is exactly what you said. As many neighbors to form a network. How you form that network is up to you. I don't care if you have each other on speed dial. I don't care if you have each other in Rolodex. I don't care if you have just a piece of paper. However you want to do that is up to you. But I want neighbors to watch out for neighbors. And you can do that in a multitude of ways of just making sure that they're okay. In my neighborhood, I have some senior folks, and if I don't see them every couple days, I just want to make sure they're all right. I also have folks who are young professionals that if I don't see them for a week or two, they could be out of town. Just want to know so that if something happens, I can call in my community, because I live in Clovis, I can call the Clovis Police Department and say, hey, this is the question. For us, it's the same thing. And when there are those issues that do, people, I don't really want to call 911, I don't really want to call the police department, but I do need them to know about that, then you have an outlet either through your community service officer for crime prevention or our problem-oriented policing officer, which deals with issues that are kind of outside the norm. So there's a multitude of ways that you can connect with us through Neighborhood Watch. And like Mary was talking about, I don't need people to be some kind of vigilante group that reports each other for whatever issue. I do need people to watch out for one another. And if it's just a simple thing, you know, one phone call a year, if it's you call me every 2 years, that's fine. But as long as you're watching out for one another, because a lot of the issues that we see here north of about, I'd say probably north of Barstow, because it's predominantly residential, are going to be home burglaries and they're going to be vehicle burglaries. And by watching out for one another, that's how a lot of that gets solved. A lot of folks nowadays have Ring cameras, which are great for us. A lot of folks have all sorts of different kinds of video, which really help us a lot. So we have detectives that follow up on each and every one of those cases. But the hard part is when you have a car that's windows broken and the purse is missing and nobody saw anything and there's no video and it's a cold night and so you have condensation, we can't fingerprint anything, that makes it really difficult to follow up on. Because unlike television, fingerprints don't automatically stick on something and then we have something that scans that. That's television. The real world is we have to use fingerprint graphite dust and go out there and put it on something. If there's water on it, we can't do that. So there are a multitude of issues that, again, Neighborhood Watch can help you with, we can help you with. Neighborhood Watch isn't meant to be something that becomes a chore. It's just what we did when we were all with gray hair growing up. I mean, you knew who your neighbor was and you just watched out for it. It's very simple.
Thank you, sir. Well, listen, I know we have... Yes, ma'am.
You gave me a message about the cleanup.
Yes.
How do we find out about that or miss?
Fantastic question to ask. So, how do we find out about a cleanup? Yes, we publish ours. We send a text message out. We hand deliver flyers, whatever we got to do. It's all over our social media. If you're on social media and you don't follow us, you should. And if you're not, we will let you know anyway. Put that on the sign-in sheet. I want to know about trash cleanups. We'll do an official Beautify Fresno trash cleanup about once a quarter. But that doesn't mean that if you have a neighborhood that needs some trash picked up, you can't call us and we can't do something else. We have had trash cleanups. It's just us and some friends, some donuts, some coffee, some grabbers, some vests, and some gloves. And we'll go out there and bring back a bunch of bags of trash. I'm happy to do it, like being outside in the first place. So for our following trash pickups, we'll absolutely reach out to you. A lot of folks have families at home. You've been so patient with us, polite and informed with the questions. I appreciate that so much. I am here to work for you. So please, if you want to attend these future meetings, please do. I will continue to hold me up. You continue to hold me responsible and accountable, and we're going to have a great 4 years. So those of you watching at home, thank you for tuning in. Please give yourselves a hand if you were here in person. I will stay here afterward if you have a follow-on question for me. I'm happy to do so. So thank you all. Please stay in touch. I've got your 6. Final plug, if anybody's really passionate about bicycling or bike lanes, we need to appoint a member to a committee.